the first thing I'd like to do is acknowledge the team of other people that really contributed large components of this talk. I've got some samples here and there of some of the things that we've been able to do in parts of Canada to help municipalities or other agencies in dealing with weather and climate-related disasters. So just to begin, I think anyone who was here yesterday would have seen this infamous graph. And basically it comes from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And what it's saying is that there are a range of actions that we will have to take in the future. That climate change is with us. It's not going to go away. That yes, we have to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions that we have, but no matter how successful we become in the future, we will still have to face the inevitable. That climate change is upon us in many regions of the country, particularly here in the north, or right in the middle of it, or in the beginning of it, and so it is a reality that has to be dealt with. So if we find that we're concerned about the disasters that we face today, we have to acknowledge the reality that there is the potential for quite a few more of those already coming our way, and of course to cook their way in the future. So what this graph shows are various surface warming globally that we can expect given different intentions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The red curve that keeps screaming upward is the one that says that we keep on going business as usual. We don't take this threat seriously. We decide not to do very much about greenhouse gas emissions except what we would have done anyway. So the storyline is we better be prepared even faster. The bottom red curve shows what happens if we actually take this threat globally very seriously and we start to control some of those emissions in very significant ways. And it basically says that we will still be seeing some of those changes, but that we could bring things under control. And of course, that bottom curve, not to delude ourselves, requires significant changes to how we do things globally. But that aside, there's a little bit of debate for those of you who were here yesterday on what we have to do about this. And traditionally, it's been the mitigation story. We've got to get those greenhouse gas emissions down. And there are a lot of other benefits that come from that, including the benefits for air quality, et cetera. So it's inevitable that we have to do that. There's another set of actions, and that's adaptation. Often the mitigation community will admit that yes, adaptation is important because it buys us the time that we need to get those greenhouse gas emissions under control. And those from the adaptation side of the coin will say yes, we need mitigation or reduction of greenhouse gas because it buys the time we're all going to have to need to adapt to the changes or cope with the changes that are coming upon us. So no matter how you slice it, we have to do both. And the thing that we're racing against is time. Things are changing at a rate that's faster than we will be able to either reduce our greenhouse gases and change the way we do things or adapt to the changes. Some of the big impetus for getting Kyoto and getting the world more aware of the importance of climate change came from the insurance industry and came from various agencies that are very concerned about escalating impacts from natural disasters. And this graph shows some global statistics. On the y-axis, it shows what are the numbers of disasters, significant disasters worldwide. You could superimpose dollars lost on that same curve, and the story would be about the same. Probably the curve would be increasing even more steeply if you put the dollars on that y-axis. But the net nugget of the story is that it's not the geological, it's not the biological, it's the meteorological and water-related disasters that are causing so many of our impacts in society today. And what that graph really tells you is that there are things right now that we could be doing to adapt to the disasters that we're already facing that we aren't doing. That even given that climate change wasn't a threat to us, that we already are a little bit behind the eight ball and need to be considering a little better adaptation efforts than we have now. And we call that, it's written in that red box, the adaptation deficit. And it basically identifies the things that we could be doing better today for what we've got and doing in terms of the numbers of events that are impacting society and the dollars from it. So the statistics are the same in every country. I'll show you Canada's picture in a couple of slides. This just gives you the idea that things are not static. that you've probably seen this graphic before. Anything that's shown as a blue plus is an area, identifying an area where we're actually seeing increases in heavy and very heavy precipitation worldwide. This comes from it's updated, but it's also quoted in the IPCC document. Anything that's a red dash shows you areas where there's significant decreases in precipitation events, and hence you can kind of translate areas where they've been subjected to some drought events. So the IPCC last year went so far as to say that this and other evidence indicates that we're seeing increases in both severe droughts and heavy rains in many regions of the world. So it makes it likely that we're going to make the statement that hydrological conditions have already become more intense. So a glimpse of the future. So if you put all together what the scientists have been willing to hang their shirts out and say, these are some of the summaries of what exists out there, that there is good confidence in the whole peer review process to be able to state. One is that on the future global extremes, we're looking at with increased moisture and warming, likelihood of increased precipitation events. It's more intense, heavy downpours, the type that make the news in extreme events. That the changes in the extremes are going to be a lot greater and have a bigger impact too than the changes in the annual means. That mean temperatures, of course, we've heard about this for many years, are going up, but we need more extreme high temperatures and less extreme low temperatures. So less cold, more hot. That where they occur, although we're looking at possibly a wetter regime, we will still go into periods where we're very wet, very dry, more severe droughts when they occur. We're already seeing evidence, and this will continue. Stronger hurricanes likely becoming more severe and frequent, and the whole storm track starting to shift. And you may say, well, so what? Well, it's a problem if you design and assume that you have a certain frequency of low pressure systems and what habit they bring. Change occurs, we have to be prepared, and that is the challenge. So they tend to say, and it's becoming more consistent, that by the end of this century, and it's likely going to be before then, that things that might be the 50-year worst storm or worst rainfall event, we can now start to expect more frequently, and they happen at least every 25 years. So what's a big storm now may become a more common storm down the road. Back in Canada, our story is, in terms of the natural disaster frequencies, is not that different from the rest of the world, as is every country, showing pretty much similar trend. You can't trust that last piece because it's only a half of this current decade, but it shows an upward trend, and the dollars are showing the similar thing in Canada. So it comes to the question, well, what is changing in Canada? I have to start with the United States because their evidence, perhaps because of their climate monitoring, weather monitoring networks, is able to define trends a little closer, a little more certainly than we can in Canada. We're a big piece of territory in Canada, a lot of land area. Our stations are, in some parts, are not as frequent in coverage as they are in the United States. And extreme events are by nature anomalous events. They're things that sometimes it takes a little longer to get something that you can prove and keep a statistician happy and say, yes, that increase is not due to chance. It really did happen due to some other forcing. So in the United States, their evidence is very clear, or getting to be very clear. They've found that there's a non-ambiguous upward trend in the frequency of heavy to extreme precipitation events. That they've found that from some studies that there's about a 14% increase in the heavy precipitation, and a 20% increase in the heaviest precipitation frequency of events. That the number of days when they see more than 50 millimeters of rain a day, and that impact is increasing. And that the frequency of extreme events, we had seen them before at the turn of the century. We're now back to where they were then, and on the upper fronts from here as well. In Canada, the evidence that we have to date from our networks indicate that Canada's warmed at almost twice the global average, which is significant, and is bearing a lot of the brunt of that. That many regions of Canada are now statistically, you can say, keep statisticians happy, tending towards wetter conditions.